Hello and welcome to the Indie Alternative Podcast. It's me, Chris. On this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by Michele Stodart. Michele talks a bit about her musical influences and what it was like growing up around music. She also talks about her songwriting process, collaborations, the magic numbers, and what it's like playing music live again. I really enjoyed this interview. It's got a really relaxed, late-night radio type vibe about it. So maybe listen with a nice glass of red, because I think Michele would appreciate that. Before we hit the interview though, here's a quick reminder of all the ways you can support the podcast. If you haven't done so already, you can follow me on social media and those links are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to support me financially or buy me a virtual coffee, you can do that too, and a link to that is in the show notes. And lastly, if you haven't written a review and you've got a couple of minutes to spare, please go to Apple and rate and review. That would be fantastic. Anyway, that's enough of the waffle. Here's Michele. Welcome to the podcast, Michele Stodart. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. We made it.
We did. We did make it.
How's things with you?
Yeah, things are okay. Chugging along.
Whereabouts in the country are you?
I am based in West London, so around Ealing area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And things are, I guess we were talking a little bit about things getting back to normal, and I don't want to curse the situation because it is, no way near normal, but you are sort of out there and gigging again and loving it, I'm guessing.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. Life is kind of coming back, musically anyway, to gigging again and touring and festivals, and it's definitely nice. It's kind of been doing lots of different projects and playing with different people and things, and it's kind of like the collaboration side of music is that we've all been missing, as well as being on stage, but also playing with other people. Has been really amazing recently. It's been, but yeah, also just a lot to get used to again.
Yeah. Well, getting on stage and actually finding your feet, and I suppose the audience has stayed the same, but obviously a lot of the audience would be, getting to grips with coming back to in a live situation as well, and all the kind of anxiety that follows that. So it's a long road, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely is. I remember some of the first gigs I had, and it was kind of like in between the lockdowns, like when it was opening up slowly, and then all of a sudden it kind of got shut down again. There was a couple gigs that I definitely had a few kind of anxiety, like panic attacky kind of things. Really. That was eye-opening as well, really, to realize how we kind of adjust to different circumstances and having to go back out there.
You touched on collaborations just a second ago, but you've always been about the collaboration, haven't you? Since even the early days of the band, working with different people, producers, and then coming into your own as a solo artist. And has there always been something in the back of your mind that you've wanted to pursue and explore?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I think we've always been a band that's kind of, we love working with people and different. For me as a musician and as a writer, I just think music is something, we're learning all the time, be it just standing on the side of the stage and watching another band perform, or in the crowd, or learning someone else's song, or getting a chance to kind of play, I play bass with a few different artists now, and also kind of started doing some recordings and things like that. And it's just kind of, it's really interesting, just different kind of sides of music. And at the moment, I'm really enjoying kind of building musical director kind of sort of stuff, and curation, doing a festival, curating a stage, putting on different lineups and things. And it's just nice just getting people, people that you love and admire to kind of hang out with, really.
Yeah.
Of the, and do different projects together, really. It's definitely been a thing that's been feeding me recently. in a good way.
And how do you go about choosing those artists? Is it because you play together in the same sort of musical circles, or are you quite ear to the ground in terms of talent, always looking for something that's coming up?
Yeah, I think I am kind of always looking for something, but I'd like to do that a bit more. Actually, I think it'd be nice to kind of, in the olden days, olden, but like I just realized that, you can, used to have the A&R guy that used to go out and look at, different bands and things like that, and bring it to, either the label or the kind of networking scene or whatever. But it would be nice to kind of go out to gigs and sort of see different bands and things that you wouldn't necessarily go and see and be like surprised really. But I'm trying to kind of do that a little bit more and just sort of pick bands or artists together that kind of work. Like I'm doing a Carole King tribute for her first album. Well, it wasn't actually properly her first album, but Tapestry anyway. And like picking the artists to kind of sing those songs as well, and like just kind of having a different mindset on it in some ways, musically. You
don't want to be the A&R guy at the back of the stage, back of the crowd with your arms folded, looking. No.
I will reinvent the A&R dude.
Like up in the front, pogoing.
We need that. Mainly just kind of just enjoying music in some ways, and trying to think of it in different, bringing people together. Really,
your early start to music. I'll phrase that slightly different. You had a very early start in music, didn't you? Or being surrounded by music back in Trinidad. What? Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind, about kind of like your musical upbringing.
Yeah. Well, we were born in Trinidad, and my family always listened to music. They still, like, my mum used to sing in Trinidad, and she'd sing all the kind of Bacharach and Carpenters kind of songs and, classics, basically. And we grew up listening to country music quite a lot, actually. It was quite big in Trinidad as well. Like my uncle played steel pan, and, my granny played a bit piano, and music was always kind of there, like from the very start, since I remember being really small and just having music on all the time, really. But the biggest kind of thing was just realizing how like passionate my family was about it in some ways. Like, they put on Patsy Cline and, cry their eyes out and, just kind of, and it was just that kind of feeling behind it, really, that was, magnetizing in some way. Just kind of took over. And I think when we moved to New York, then my brother Romeo, he, worked to get himself a guitar, because he then started to really get into Slash from Guns N' Roses, and he was like obsessed with like learning, being this amazing guitarist, and just kind of trying to learn as much as. And again, like just watching him doing that and just having music around, and him with his friends, and when we moved to London, then, just having it all the time, really. It was always there. And it was always there in a sense of like, definitely felt like a kind of need in a way. Like it was sort of, and when I picked up the guitar, it was for me like writing, just learning a couple chords and being able to write was like the biggest like thing for me, really. Because I was quite shy as a kid, and just kind of being able to kind of say some stuff on my own in a guitar in my room with the guitar. Radiohead got me through some teenage years as well.
Yeah, they got the same for me. They're so good at. They're such an amazing band to just sort of get you through the worst of times and the best of times. Yeah, I've got so much love for that band. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It
was always there.
I always feel quite envious of musical families in a way, because you've already kind of got that kind of shared love, and it galvanizes you, and you still almost kind of, I guess you said you were quite shy, and it took you a while to sort of be confident and to do the things you wanted to do in terms of music, but you're already kind of able, probably, and a bit more freer to explore that because of the family connections and everybody else being involved. And some musicians like myself wouldn't necessarily have the outlet, and would just be something that was very personal that you would do in your bedroom on your own, and be almost quite scared to sort of play it to anybody. But so is that something that you feel definitely helped in the early part of your life?
I think like our parents were just amazing in that sense. It was, do the thing that you loved to do, and nothing else kind of mattered really. And that was always the kind of lesson in a way. It was just like, it was filled with just this huge kind of big love really for things, and that made you kind of happy, and was like that inspired. And my mum still does it now, she's just like, she'll be like, oh, you can do this, and you can, nothing is kind of impossible really. And so I think that definitely helped me to be able to not feel like what I was doing was wrong in a way, and that I could kind of express in that way and it be okay. And I think like as a kid, that's, I think that's really important, just growing up with that sort of freedom to kind of, to do that.
Yeah.
Without having to kind of put it in logically or make sense of it, or, and so I think that definitely helped, and it also really helped me to overcome my shyness. Music was a sense of like communication for me. I remember kind of being really, really shy at the start of the band, and once we started playing, it was just like the music. It was all, that was all it was. The music kind of took over then, and grew up on the stage really in some ways.
Yeah, because you had a pretty mighty instrument to sort of get to grips with as well, with the bass. And it wasn't your first choice though. It wasn't, you were asked to play bass or fill in on bass, weren't you, originally for the Magic Numbers?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, when Romeo was like, because my dad and my mum let us, let him, I say convert, but I let him kind of take over, let's say, the front room. And when we moved to London, and he put like a mattress in the window, and we'd stick up egg boxes, and different kind of boards on the walls, and try and make it as soundproof as we could.
Yeah.
And that room was really nice before we got hold of it. And it's still there, it's still got all our stuff in it. But and we, he would then rehearse and play in his band then, so him and Sean of the band, they kind of had different members come in, and I remember picking up the acoustic and learning a couple chords. Romeo taught me a couple chords, and then I'd sort of like, that would be my kind of like private thing whilst he was doing his thing.
Yeah.
And I think he knew that obviously I'd kind of could play a little bit of guitar. And so he said, hey, I need you to come and play some bass just in this like rehearsal. Because the bass player wasn't there. And I loved it. I just loved it. I really loved playing with the drums and just like rhythmically. And then I just kind of got obsessed with it without him kind of knowing. And then wanted to sing and play at the same time, because I was singing and playing the guitar, and I was kind of like, I'd stay up and early hours just to kind of like practice singing and playing whatever, and the songs that he was writing and the things like that, and trying to do, in some ways, trying to kind of impress him as well. He's my bigger brother. he's my big brother. So yeah, it was like, that was a little bit of a drive, I think, and yeah, in a good way.
No, singing and playing bass is not easy, because for me, I play bass too in a band, and
I thought so, yeah.
And I was like, well, I thought this is going to be fine because I can play guitar, but it's lead guitar, but on 4 strings. That's how I kind of describe it to anybody who doesn't play the bass, because you're doing so much more. Rhythm guitarists have got it easy, and that's why I had it so easy for so long. But yeah, to sing and play lead guitar on a bass, because that's kind of how I get my head around what I'm doing. It's really difficult, and it's you are exposed, because everyone, well, I guess lots of people don't listen for the bass, but I think many people do, and it really is important. And there's 2 types of people, aren't there? I mean, I guess there's bass players and people that play bass, and to be a bass player is bloody hard. Anyway, for me it is. I still persevere.
No, it's true. It is a different kind of beast, really, in a way. It's kind of like they're both, melodic, and the vocals and the bass, and there's a lot of in between rhythms. I think I always just had in my mind, though, that I wasn't gonna have my vocals not, I loved both equally, and I was like, I wanted to kind of try and do both, really, and I enjoyed actually breaking it down and learning it in that kind of methodical kind of way. And also, like, I'm forever having like little melody lines in my head, so when we're writing together and like coming up with stuff, or I'll always have a little bass part line, melody or something, and I want to have that. I want to have that as well as having the vocals. So it's like trying to do both, really. I'm greedy.
In terms of getting your own solo material or writing for yourself, because you were writing for I'm guessing, all the way through the kind of the magic numbers, and then obviously going into solo world. Was that transition quite hard? And did you have kind of a little notebook of songs that you were quite, excited about putting together and playing live?
Yeah, it was really hard. And I was writing a lot, and I had a lot of songs, and it was like, we were doing the second album, and the second Magic Numbers album, and I had quite a few songs, and Romeo was the one who actually said to me he'd love to put one of my songs on Those the Brokes, which was the second Magic Numbers album. And it was a song I'd written that we ended up having Robert Kirby's strings on, which was amazing for me. And we later worked with Robert on other stuff as well. And yeah, it was just like a total moment to have that. And, he was quite persistent that we had to have it on the record. Romeo was like, we have to put this song, and I was like, no one's going to want to hear that. It's weird. This doesn't it doesn't work, with the, and yeah, he was always really great at that, kind of trying to keep equal like parts, for me and Ange and everything. And that was the kind of first taster, really, of doing my music in a way, and realizing that it could kind of be more than just in my bedroom. And then he was like, oh, you should definitely record a record. And so I started kind of like picturing the songs with other things on it, with other instrumentation, and trying to kind of like put something together, really. And yeah, it's just kind of built in some ways in terms of like a recording thing first, and then when I to take it live was quite terrifying, It was terrible, and it wasn't my favorite thing to begin with, and it was a huge lesson, really, because I think I went in quite naively, sort of thinking all the Magic Numbers fans would follow and come and check me out, and listen and stuff like that. And to be quite honest, they weren't. They weren't there straight away. And and they definitely, I have a few those fans and friends that have kind of stuck with me throughout the whole thing, which has been amazing. But yeah, it was a kind of, I'd done the record and I self-released the first album, which was really hard and a huge learning curve again, just like spent too much money doing it, and I kind of put everything into it in some ways. And then booked this like tour and I'm letting it all out now. Booked this tour and it was just the wrong venues. It was the wrong kind of it was just the wrong vibe for my music. Coming from the band, going into that sort of stuff, I didn't really, know the kind of solo world really. Which is a different thing entirely. It really is. It really is. It's like it's crazy that and it's been really interesting, and I'm still learning really the different kind of almost world between both sides really. But yeah, it was tricky, but I think now I sort of see my stuff and I want to record my songs and keep recording records, and touring, my music in a different kind of way, to the band.
And so writing wise, I mean, are you one of these people that carry a little notepad and a pencil and then jotting down bits, and with your dictaphone always got a melody in the head popping up? And also, the best times for you, because I explored this with a couple of other guests, and I find it really fascinating how people write and record and what's the best kind of time in the day to do it. Are you a night owl with this sort of thing, like a lot of artists are?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good question. Yeah, so I love writing. Those are my favorite times. Writing is like end of night when everyone's asleep and when I should be sleeping, and everything's really, really quiet. And I'll get out the guitar or just sort of write, and things just kind of come to me in that way, start kind of listening, almost just listening to thoughts and stuff that kind of comes up. And yeah, I love writing also in the early morning, like before anyone's awake.
Oh, okay.
And just kind of sneaking those hours basically in between before the world kind of starts. I like the sort of like image of like, when snow is like before it's touched, just the moment just before it's like indented, and those kind of like, and they're only small moments, and I'm always writing in terms of like having a notebook as well. I do have a notebook, and different notebooks for different kind of. I've started writing a bit of poetry recently. Me and Catherine did a poetry course, and we'd write in the mornings, and so I got a different kind of notebook for my poems and things like that.
Do those two kind of genres, if you like, do they kind of spill into each other then, if you've got like this creative writing outlet in two directions almost?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, the like poetry writing. I mean, I wouldn't say that I know the sort of theory behind it, and I know there's a lot of different ways to do it, rhythmically, and the stanzas and all those kind of things. But in terms of just for me, like the writing in a sort of poem kind of form, is a different focus, really. You can focus on like something really small and just kind of bring out the details of everything of it. And I think songwriting has like, you know, more of a structure and more of a sort of shape to kind of follow. And, you know, if you've got a melody, you're sort of tied to that melody to fit lyrics too. And that can be, I mean, I'm saying limiting, not in a bad way, in a good way, you know, in the sort of way of like, there's a sense of discipline and kind of, you know, sticking to something because it's working, you know, and to find the right words for that melody and things like that. So it is different. And I have found that sometimes I will write something that I wouldn't think that would go into a song, and actually, you know, starting off as like a poem, I've realized that actually could be a really good angle to something towards a song, even if it's just an element in the song or a different perspective almost, maybe zoomed out or zoomed in a little bit more. And it has been really nice. I've started writing a lot of like detailed kind of songs. Got a new record at the moment, and one of the songs on it's called The House, and it's all about like the little details that get remained, like the sort of the cup on the table that doesn't move, then this kind of house is kind of deserted. And just focusing on those little things really.
And is this something in terms of your writing that has evolved over the years? Where did it initially come from in terms of the content and the lyric? Where were you getting inspiration from?
For me, when I go to writing, it comes first from like a feeling, really, either a memory or a moment that, you know, that might have passed or lost, or, you know, a particular person, either a relationship and finding different ways to almost say that, really. Say those different things that you kind of, and also like I've realized just the ways they kind of stay with me in different, like in my body in a way. And that's kind of strange. Like I've really been trying to kind of really almost focus on that side of it, you know, how we hold things and how it's sort of, and I suppose like in the quiet times of the night, that's when they kind of suddenly, you can hear them, you know, you can kind of feel them and they come out in a different way. So I think like my writing in a sense from like the, you know, from the first album and from like older songs to the stuff that I'm writing now has been a more kind of evolving process of figuring out how to relate to certain things in a way, and how do they kind of sit with me now, or and then stretching that to kind of connect with someone. How would this, like, you know, can someone find some connection with this? Is, you know, is this relatable really in some ways? Although I don't really go into writing thinking about that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I did a gig the other day, and I was like singing, you know, these really personal kind of songs, and I found myself like apologizing for it.
Yeah.
You know? And I've just been trying to really own them now. I've just like, that's been a journey for me as an artist to like actually not apologize for the songs that I'm writing, the things that I'm sharing. And that's really hard. I think it's because it's so vulnerable. It's so, you know, you're kind of inviting these people to listen to where you are at the moment and what, you know, the journey of things that you maybe have gone through. But I'm hoping that like they could then relate to it and take it on for themselves in a way.
Yeah. And when you're in a bit of a funk, and either with writing or just in general, are there any kind of food artists that you go to that just, you know, will give you a bit more of inspiration or a kick, or just to kind of, I'd say declutter, but just take stock of everything? Is there a favorite kind of musician or another genre? Is there something else you do, like a film or anything that you do just to clear your head and wipe the slate down, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. Gosh, I have to think like consciously now. What do I do?
Or is it just a decent glass of red? I was talking to
has its purpose.
yeah, I was talking to Astrid Williamson, and she said, this is where I get the food thing from, because she said it so well, that whenever she felt like there was a need to just take stuff in from somewhere else, it was always the great artists like Dylan and Drake and Nick Drake, and that they were all just food for her. They were just artists that were nourishment, is how she puts it. I thought, that's such an interesting way, and I've just sort of kind of purpose that question to you in a way, and just think, is that something you find yourself doing? Because I say the same, if you want something to just kickstart how it all began, I will put on a lot of early noughties Americana, and it kind of goes, that's what I love. And this is what takes you back, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. It does. I mean, gosh, we all draw from like the greats. I love listening to Joni Mitchell and like, Gillian Welsh and Emmylou and, all the kind of, and of course, Dylan and Tom Waits actually. And, all of those sort of lyricists really that tell a story and sort of evoke something, of a time, as well. I think as well, though, like I find in a weird way, I've realized like I love like having quiet moments and sort of being, quite homely and things. But also I think I do get like fed by energy of people and, being in the room and listening to other people's experiences and conversation and connection and their stories and like, or even just like maybe sort of, sat next to someone and wondering what brought them here today or some, just kind of a little bit of, soaking up stuff in that way. I've realized that, especially coming out of everything that we've come out of, like that's been a bit of a realization for me as well. You have the extrovert and the introvert, but I don't think it ever goes fully either way, being fed by people and surroundings and sort of experiences, I think.
Which is a lot more easier now that we're sort of being able to be amongst other people.
I know, which is why I think like moments of lockdown I really was difficult. Yeah, I couldn't express in that way on stage, where you get that kind of wild, abandoned kind of feeling, You
won an award recently as well. I mean,
gosh, I did.
The UK Instrumentalist of the Year for the Americana Music Association.
Yeah, I know.
And
crazy, really.
I mean, that must have been amazing for you. I mean, well, congratulations on that, because what a sort of great accolade, really. And how did it come about? I'm sure it wasn't intentional. But in terms of like some background on that, I mean, is it something that's been going for a while, that organization or association, or?
Yeah, the AMAs are amazing. They've been going now for a while. I remember when I first started going sort of solo, I remember sort of them building up its kind of profile and stuff. And recently I did a few sort of, this Americana Clash gig, which was amazing. It was like playing Clash songs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Honestly, it was like insanely amazing because I got to learn all those cool bass lines. And they're really hard.
Hard.
they're like whole other rhythmic kind of it blew my mind a little bit, which was great. So I did that, and I did a couple other sort of shows, like and then the last awards show, they asked me to MD the band and the artists and stuff, and yeah, it was amazing. Like, I was just like, oh wow, cool. Like, it was, you know, being part of that sort of like world as well. And also, being recognized to play and also MD in that way was quite a big thing for me, really. And yeah, it was a fun night, and yeah, I didn't actually think I was gonna win at all, because I thought they'd warned me beforehand. I thought they'd say, "Oh, by the way, you've got to prepare a speech or something." So no, they kept it as a surprise. And then I just went up and rambled my way through and laughed all the way through it, I think, at myself.
As long as they didn't put the closing music on you to get you off the stage. Yeah. It's like the Oscars. Get off.
I mean, I was thinking, God, I hope I don't go up when someone else's name is called. That would be the worst.
Didn't Michael Jackson do that? I'm sure he did that. Yeah. Yes, he did. Yeah.
I think he did. Yeah. Yes.
Oh. You touched earlier on about on the a forthcoming album. So what where's that at? What's the situation with your new record?
Oh yeah. Well, I started it. It was kind of like at the beginning of, before, pandemic and everything. I had it kind of to go into the studio, and I couldn't, and that was really frustrating and hard. And I think I sort of went a bit down about that, and I kind of but I was still trying to work on it, basically, and sort of maybe try it remotely and everything. So it took a while in some ways because of all of that to record it, but it's now kind of it's mixed. It's finished mixed. I'm doing some final tweaks on it on the 31st, and then I'm hoping to kind of hopefully release at least something from it, maybe a track from it this year. Sort of tempted to kind of do a sort of self-release on it again, just to see, but I don't know. It's sort of, I guess at the moment, it's sort of working out how to get it out there.
Yeah.
Which is, which is quite tricky, nowadays to sort of work that out. And I think there's so many different avenues to go down, really. But I'm happy with the record. It is really great. It's like, it's definitely a step forward again from the last album, with songs that kind of a bit more sort of how I'm kind of writing now as well, which is really cool. I mean, I've got like so many kind of albums in my mind. It's just it's just doing it, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm just terrible at getting things done.
Oh God. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I mean, have you got any kind of exclusives in terms of any collaborations or an album title you could, or anything like that? I don't want to push you to anything.
Yeah, let's see.
I mean, you didn't have to.
No, I won't do it. I won't do the album title, but I am, like, the whole artwork thing is I'm gonna try and do. This is me being ambitious again, but I'm gonna try and do like a visual kind of either a piece of art with each song, and I wanted to do, because I was doing a lot of writing during that time as well, I wanted to kind of write almost a little bit more behind the actual song, like, be it like a poem from that perspective, as well as like having the lyrics. You have like another angle to the tracks and where you can kind of go in, really, how deep you kind of want to go with each song, really, in that sense. So I've got those kind of ideas of what I'd like to kind of put out with the record. It's only going to be 8 songs on the album as well, so that, I guess that's something to say about it.
Well, that's exclusive.
That's the exclusive.
It's good. I'll take it.
That's the exclusive. But yeah, it's, you know, it's basically a journey from like, you know, a breakup into finding myself, into sort of kind of a little bit of that.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. Good luck with it all and the live shows you've got
thanks.
coming up.
Take care. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.